Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Well, this morning we started out with the governor coming to visit with us about important issues that he's taking on. Water is very important to the Kansas Farm Bureau and the Kansas members of Kansas Farm Bureau, so he talked about that a little bit. We talked about the initial session last year where we had some concern about raising property taxes, which is very critical to the production systems out here in western Kansas. We then got to listen to me talk about the Lesser Prairie Chicken, which is something I'm very passionate about because I live in the middle of Lesser Prairie Chicken habitat area, which could be declared as critical habitat. And we're concerned about what effects that may have on farmers and ranchers and our ability to continue to feed the world. We then talked about Endangered Species Act with Ryan Yates from American Farm Bureau and things that we need to do to reform the Endangered Species Act. That act has a lot of power and can cause problems for producers. The Lesser Prairie Chicken may be one of those, but we're also worried about as many as 900 species that may be considered for listing because of a multi-district litigation settlement that occurred a few years ago that's forcing U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to look at those species. So we're looking at what we need to do as farm bureaus across the country to deal with endangered species that are going to come our way. And we figured out that it's very expensive for us to fight endangered species on our own. So we're trying to work more as a Farm Bureau groups from different states together to try to take on that issue. We then learned about some other issues like Waters of the U.S., which is a rule made by EPA and the Corps of Engineers that will go into effect at August 28th of this year, which will be a huge power grab of land and put more land under the control of EPA in the state of Kansas. I've seen some states that may have increased their control by as much as 98%. Kansas is no different. We're going to see a lot more control under EPA under this rule, and so we're concerned about that and seeing what we can do to improve that rule or change it to where it doesn't devastate Kansas agriculture. We have a lot of concerns about what's going to happen with the Clean Air Act regulations coming our way, and we'll need your help on that. As the new legislative session comes into play in Kansas, we will have to be paying attention to what will happen with property taxes, sales tax exemptions that we have on machinery, and those things will all have to be on the forefront, and we'll have to be watching for those things that happen in our state legislatures. So we're going to need Kansas farmers and ranchers to reach out to your legislators and let them know what you think about issues that come up during the legislative session. That comes up very quickly during the session, so we can get in touch with you very easily if you sign up for text alerts and those things, which helps us to let you know what's going on, and then you can make the phone calls that are necessary to keep our legislators informed of what we want. The thing that many people don't realize about Kansas Farm Bureau is we're not an insurance company. We're an advocacy group for Kansas farmers and ranchers that just happens to own an insurance company. What we do within Kansas Farm Bureau is our county boards, our county committees, our state boards, we all work together and represent all 105 counties in the state of Kansas on issues that affect farmers and ranchers. And believe it or not, anything that affects the farmer and rancher affects everybody in the state that eats. So what Farm Bureau is great at is representing the grassroots of Kansas farmers and ranchers across this entire state on any issue that may affect agriculture. Well, the main thing that we need from Kansas farmers and ranchers is to get involved and to help us fight the fight. One of the things that we always have problems with, because we're only 2% of the population, is whenever we start fighting a rule like the Waters of the U.S., we have so many fewer comments come in than what we see coming from the folks that are in favor of that rule. So what we need from Kansas farmers and ranchers is for you to get involved and to help us fight the fight on all of these issues. We heard a little bit this morning about the Clean Air Acts and some of the things with carbon emissions that are coming down that are going to increase our costs for electricity. We have seen reductions in oil and gas development, which is going to affect our county tax bases. We see that the Endangered Species Act may cause more problems with our tax base. We need Kansas farmers and ranchers to be advocates on their own behalf and to have a voice, but you've got to speak up. That's the main thing that we need from Kansas farmers and ranchers.
Hello, I'm Dr. Frank Lyons from Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center here in Manhattan, Kansas. Daryl was one of our patients that we did about 7 months ago.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotator cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there's a way to get rid of this pain, then I want to do it. So we did it and it worked. And I'm not going to go out and dig trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now.
Well, it's been very gratifying to help people with their painful joints and other entities. And it's been especially gratifying to be able to help people who I know and have worked with and known for many years.